Hi there, it's Nicole for Line Fawn, and today I have a card that features the Tombow dual brush markers, and these are awesome water-based markers that you can use for lots of great fun watercolor techniques. I'm going to use them to color in my images as well as to create the watercolor background. I'm going to start by stamping my images on some Bristol smooth white cardstock to do a little watercolor coloring. You could use watercolor cardstock as well. I tend to like Bristol when I'm coloring in an image just for the smoothness of the paper, but you can use whatever you want. I am using a combination of tons of fruit images from lots of different Lawn Fawn stamp sets. So I've got the pineapple from Aloha. I've got the watermelon from Happy Summer. The lemonade pitcher from Make Lemonade, which isn't actually a fruit image, but I kind of liked it with this and the citrusy kind of feel of that image. The strawberries and blueberries from So Smooth, and the apples from Thanks a Bushel. So totally mix and matching here to create this fruit themed birthday card. Once I have these stamped on some smooth or Bristol smooth cardstock with the Lawn Fawn jet black ink, I'm going to start coloring with my Tombow dual brush markers. And I'm going to start with my dark color here and then blend a little with a lighter color. So I've got my orange dual brush marker, the process yellow dual brush marker, and I'm going to blend that out a little, but you can see I'm leaving the center kind of open. This is where you can take the blender and blend those colors. Now I really should have let the black ink sit just a little bit longer because it's smeared a little with the yellow. But I actually had to redo and color all of these images because I deleted this clip from my video camera. So I didn't worry about it a lot because in the original image it didn't bleed like that. For the greenery on top of the pineapple, I'm using willow and chartreuse. Again, just blended those out. For the watermelon, here is a great example of one color. This is the carmine red being colored at the top and then blended out to make it lighter with that blender pen. You just want to clean off the tip of your blender pen on your scrap paper or scratch paper between changing colors. The watermelon rind, the willow and chartreuse again. Use the blender pen to blend those colors out as needed. Need to go back and darken up that watermelon rind just a little bit, I think. So there's the watermelon. For the apples, same colors as the watermelon. Carmine for the apples themselves. It's just going to be a single color blended out with the blender pen for that nice variation in color. So I'll just apply the carmine red to both of these images. Take my blender pen and you just kind of work your way out. If you don't want to use the blender pen, if you want it to be a little bit more of that watercolored look, you could use a water brush pen or a paintbrush dipped in water. That's going to work as well to move these around. These are water-based markers and they're going to react and work with water. For the leaves, willow and chartreuse again. And then for the little bite out of the apple, I didn't really have a tan color, so I'm going to lay down a little bit of the orange, just a tiny touch, and then blend it out with my blender pen to give that little piece of the inside of the apple a tiny bit of color. The strawberries again are going to be carmine. The deeper red color near the bottom of the strawberries, lightening towards the top. I like to clean my tip off because it tends to retain a lot of that carmine red color. The tops, the stems of the strawberries, willow and chartreuse again. For the blueberries, this is imperial purple, just a tiny touch on each of these and then blending that color out with the blender pen. You get awesome color for those blueberries with just a single color. Then for the lemonade itself is going to be processed yellow, kind of just around the outer edges and then blending it with the blender pen to finish adding the color. With a yellow, I always like to make sure the tip of the blender pen is super clean before I blend that out. You don't want to have any cross-contamination. Now I'm adding just a tiny touch of orange to the lemon slice inside of that to help differentiate that from the rest of the lemonade. And then blending it out with the processed yellow marker. In the finished card, I put glossy accents over the entire picture. I want the picture to have a little bit of a look of glass about it, so I'm adding some glacier blue to this and blending it out. And my first attempt at this, it was a little too light when I blended it out, so I'm going to go back and pull in a little bit more of that glacier color and blend it more. It needs to be fairly light, just blend it out nice to make this look like a picture of glass. For my frames, I am using 2 frames from the outside in stitched rectangles. That smaller frame I've put horizontally, so it's going to make that frame opening. And then I am just securing that on the back with a little of the post-it tape. And then I am scribbling my markers on a Ranger craft mat. I've got carmine orange, processed yellow, chartreuse, and imperial purple. I'm going to spritz it with water to make it a little bit more pliable so it works around a little bit better. And I'm going to go ahead and just put a couple more colors out here on my mat, spritz with water, and then pick up the color with these frames. I'm going to dry this really quick, see what else I need. And it gives a fantastic watercolored background. So with just these markers, I've used them to color in the images and create a watercolored background. Again, I put a couple more colors down on my craft mat. I'm picking up that color just by pressing my frame into those inks. When I have the coverage that I want, I'm going to go ahead and heat this to speed up the drying. You can blot any water marks that maybe are a little too heavy or whatever on the front that might not dry very nice. I like to flip it back and forth to get it nice and dry. And there is my background. I'm going to secure this again really quick, and I'm going to spritz this with water from a distress sprayer. The water is going to react with those inks and blot it dry, and it's going to lighten certain areas in the background for an even more distressed look. I put something heavy like that acrylic block on it while it sat and air dried then. That kept it nice and flat while it was air drying, so I didn't have to worry about it curling up quite as much as it did when I used the heat tool. Now, I thought it would be fun to add some little faces to my images. And originally I was going to stamp the sunglass images from the So Smooth and Aloha sets on a separate piece of paper. And die cut those and add those to the faces. Now, while Aloha does have an eye for this, I believe So Smooth does not. And I didn't really want the white outlines, so I nixed that idea. And instead, I'm going to take my pineapple and one of the apple images and stamp those sunglasses directly on the images themselves. I think that's going to be more effective, especially when I go to add faces to my strawberries. The watermelon has all those seeds in it, so I decided not to add a face to that, and the blueberries are too small. And one of the apples is kind of behind the blueberries in the finished card, so I didn't add faces to it either. But I think the faces are a fun, kind of whimsical touch. They're definitely that lawn fawn feel that we love, and just kind of customizes them and really is super fun. So I'm going to ink those up again. I'm using the Misty because with solid images like this and with black ink, I really think stamping them one on top of another gives the best result. So there's my pineapple and my apple with some sunglasses. Now I am working on adding a greeting to the bottom portion of my card. And for this, I'm going to use greetings from the Happy, Happy, Happy stamp set. This is one of my favorite greeting stamp sets from Lawn Fawn. It's really versatile. I use it a ton, and it goes with almost any of your Lawn Fawn stamp sets. It's just such a great one. So I stamped Wishing You A with some black ink first. I've left room for the word happy, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp happy birthday. So it's going to read wishing you a happy, happy birthday. And also the exclamation point. That space I've left is because I want to stamp the word happy. There's several different larger sized happy greetings, but I want to stamp this one that has the ability to be colored on some of that Bristol cardstock, and I'm going to color it in kind of rainbow order like I did here for the fruit in the background, so it coordinates perfectly with the rest of the design. It's also going to add a nice punch of color. There's lots going on in the top portion of the card. I want the bottom portion to kind of even it out, and to do that I'm going to color in the letters for happy with the carmine. Then I'm going to move on to orange, process yellow, chartreuse and willow, and then finally imperial purple. And that's going to add some nice color to all of those letters. So I must have had to go get a marker here because I didn't realize there was such a big break. I'm going to color those in, and the fantastic thing about this happy die cut is that coordinates is it's going to die cut all of those little inside pieces perfectly and give a fantastic outline for this word. And it's going to be a big bold greeting that perfectly fits there in between the two stamped phrases above and below it. And I really like the way it pulls those colors used in all of the fruit images down to the bottom of the card. So starting at the bottom of the letters, that's where the darker part is going to be, and I'm blending up with the blender pen, lightening it towards the top for a nice ombre effect. Go ahead and add a little liquid glue to the back of the die cut word and pop that right in place. I'm going to put something heavy on top of that to hold it down while the glue is drying. And then I can start building my scene. I'm using some glue dots to attach and layer all of these images. Make sure that some are behind and in front and just layered really nicely to look like a cute little grouping, maybe set on a counter or something, or a shelf or something like that. Once that's all adhered, I'm going to add some faces to the strawberries from the Thanks a Bushel stamp set. These little faces fit perfectly, and I think they just really add a fun touch to the strawberries. It looks like one of the strawberries is licking the other one, which I kind of think is funny. And I'll just take that carmine marker and darken the tongue just a little bit. I'm going to pop off all those little pieces on the back. You could probably leave them there too, it doesn't hurt anything. And then to hold those two panels together, all I'm doing is covering the back of this with foam adhesive. I want this whole panel to be raised anyway, so it serves the purpose of holding them together plus giving it that dimension. I'm going to take a black glaze pen and add some detail now to the seeds in the watermelon, the eyes on any of the faces, and the sunglasses. It's just going to darken them up and give them a little bit of a glossy finish that I really love. Little glossy accents on the tongue, and this is where I was talking about earlier. I'm adding glossy accents to the lemonade pitcher. It looks a little milky now, but when this dries, it's going to give it the look of glass, which I think is fantastic. Some little hearts from the Thanks a Bushel stamp set, I believe, are going to finish off the card, kind of balance it all off. They are from Thanks a Bushel. I'm going to scatter them, some up above, some down below, give the card a nice cohesive look. And then following the colors of the watercolored background, I'm going to color them in with carmine, with orange, chartreuse, willow, and imperial purple. I think I skipped the process yellow. There just wasn't a good spot for yellow. But I want them to kind of coordinate with the background. And I'm using the blender pen to blend them out. So adding just a tiny touch of color, blending out those little hearts. And they add a really nice finishing touch to the whole design. These markers are really fun to play with. I really recommend them. Great for some fun watercoloring effects. Again, I'm going to take a little glossy accents and go over all of the hearts. And I kept globbing it on this one for some reason. So go ahead and just draw that on with a fine tip nozzle because these are very, very small. One of the things I love about them is their size. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing paper. Or I guess I'm going to go ahead and go over the letters too. Add some glossy accents to all of those. It's just going to make the word happy pop out even more. I'm going to remove the backing paper from all of the foam adhesive. Adhere this to a top fold white card base. Pop that in place. And that is going to finish up this birthday greeting card featuring lots of stamps and dies from Fawn as well as the Tombow dual brush markers. Thanks for joining me today for this birthday card featuring watercoloring for both the images and a background. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.